Welcome to this week's Hot Topic Tuesday, League of Leaders. I'm Zach Sutty, Al Fragnoli joining you. Looking forward to talking to everyone about some hot topics we have tonight. Michigan Ohio State game this weekend has been canceled. Kirk Herbstreit he called it. He said that the game wasn't going to be played, and they were trying to keep Ohio State out of the Big Ten championship and potentially the playoff, knowing that the Big Ten teams needed to play at least 6 games to be eligible for the championship game. Um, do you agree with his thought process on this? And did Michigan cancel this game purposely?
Yeah, Zach, that's an awesome question. I love Kirk Herbstreit. Let's make that clear. I love watching him on game day every single Saturday. Love his commentary during games that he does. However, I think this is a little bit far fetched. I know he predicted this. This is what he thought was going to happen: is that Michigan and Ohio State wasn't going to happen, and he was going to blame it on COVID. Said Michigan was going to blame it on COVID, and they were doing it intentionally to prevent Ohio State from playing in the Big Ten championship because they won't get their 6th game. But I don't think Michigan's doing that on purpose. I know they came out as 30-point underdogs to start the week, which is the largest spread in this series, in this rivalry game since 1978, they announced. But honestly, I don't think Michigan's doing that. These kids are competitors. Jim Harbaugh, even though say what you want about the guy, his time is probably limited. He's a competitor too. He still wants to win these games, even though he hasn't made it happen yet. He wants to win. They wouldn't have won the game. Let's be real with that. But I don't think there's any chance that this was on purpose. Zach, this reminds me of when we chatted a couple weeks ago about Clemson and Dabo Swinney accusing Florida State of intentionally not wanting to play them in that matchup. But again, there's a lot of concerns surrounding COVID and Michigan has, I believe it's 16, 17 athletes that are affected by this, or staff members that are affected by COVID. They didn't play last week, so I think it was inevitable that they probably weren't going to play this week. They haven't practiced, since then. So to get the okay to maybe practice a day or two from now and have 1 or 2 practices, and go out and try and compete, I think is really unsafe and unfair. So I don't think it was done intentionally. And I don't think Ohio State fans have to really worry, Zach. I mean, first of all, athletic directors, there's some talk, are going to be meeting Big Ten athletic directors tomorrow to try and change that rule that they made prior to the start of the season of playing 6 games, a minimum of 6 games to compete in the Big Ten championship. They might change that. So if they do, and Ohio State doesn't play a makeup game or anything this weekend, I think Ohio State will go into the Big Ten championship and they'll win probably against Northwestern. If they don't change it and they don't have a game this week and they end up playing in their crossover game next week, Iowa is just as good as Northwestern in my opinion. So if you have a convincing win against Iowa next week and you don't have a Big Ten championship under your belt, I still think that the playoff committee is going to put an undefeated 6-0 Ohio State Buckeye team into the playoff. That's my opinion. That's my take. What are your thoughts on this, Zach?
So Al, I don't think that the game is going to or was canceled purposely. I honestly think that there's more integrity in the game. There's more, people are believe in the ethics of the game, and I don't think it was canceled purposely. Kirk Herbstreit, being Ohio State alum, being a player, a quarterback for Ohio State, I can get where he's coming from. I had the same feelings last week when we were talking Steelers Ravens, and I thought perhaps the Ravens were putting off the game for similar reasons. They wanted to rest their players or whatnot, or just in this case, Herbstreit was saying that it would keep Ohio State from playing in the championship or making the playoffs. So I think that's a little far fetched. I think there's more integrity in the game, and I don't think Harbaugh would ever allow that. Like you said, he wants to win this game. He wants to coach. He wants his players to play. He recruited them for that reason. He wants to get them on the field. So I just wish there was a little bit more or less gray area in college football as to what is going to allow you to play the game. I think there's just like how many cases do you have? You know, what's safe, what's not. So it's almost up to the teams to say, yeah, we're playing or no, we're not. I think there's just if there was just a little bit more collaboration between the governing body to say what's appropriate, when it's safe to play, and when it's not, and take all of these conspiracy theories out. But that's how I feel. I don't think it's purposely being done. I think it is for the safety of the players that this game is postponed or
Yeah, I
canceled.
agree. I agree. And you know, and you mentioned Herb Street being a Ohio State Buckeye alum. I think he is passionate, obviously, about this rivalry and about this game, and he definitely wants his Buckeyes to be competing for a Big Ten championship. So that's the only thing that would be a downfall if they don't get to compete in the Big Ten championship because of Michigan not being able to play them. Um, but in the grand scheme of things, Ohio State has bigger plans than just winning a Big Ten championship every year. They want to compete for a national title, and I really think that they have nothing to really gain from this game. I mean, right when you're a 30-point favorite, you need to go out and whoop this team. You're going to have to beat Michigan by 4, 5, 6 touchdowns. And if you don't, if Michigan comes out hungry and competitive and wants to really win, which I don't think anything they did would get them to win, but if Ohio State only somehow wins by 2 scores, that might affect Ohio State a little bit. So I really don't think the Buckeyes have anything to gain from playing in this game. Obviously, they might not be able to compete in a Big Ten championship as we talked about, but I think they're going to be fine and they're going to get into the playoffs. So they're one of the 4 best teams in college football. The playoff committee is going to see that. And they're not going to be kept out, in my opinion. So,
No,
anyway,
I don't think there's any way they can be kept out. I think there's that they will, I think the meeting tomorrow will determine that they have to let Ohio State in, and it'll change, uh, you know, moving forward to help them, and they deserve to be playing for it.
they should, absolutely. To stay with the topic of college football and with University of Michigan, I know we touched on this a little bit last week in our hot topic take with Jim Harbaugh. Reports yesterday came out that Jim Harbaugh was offered a 2-year contract extension by the University of Michigan. Caught a lot of people off guard during the press conference. When they asked Michigan's athletic director and they asked Jim Harbaugh specifically, both denied that there was negotiations of a contract, and they said that would be discussed at season's end. So it seems like they're denying the allegations with this coming out. If it is true, Zach, are you surprised by Jim Harbaugh getting a 2-year contract extension? Do you think it's deserving? What are your thoughts?
Yes, surprise, deserving, no. I think the meeting is going to go a little bit differently. I do still believe, and I said this last week, that um, I don't think he'll be at Michigan. And how he leaves may be different than what we discussed last week. I thought that maybe he would be fired at the end of the season, but there might be an opportunity for Jim Harbaugh to step away and leave on his terms at that point rather than being fired. And I think you mentioned it last week that he's going to have opportunities in professional football. I think there's going to be some teams that want to speak with him, and I think there are going to be teams that after they speak with him are going to offer him an opportunity to be a head coach in the NFL. So honestly, I am surprised that this news had come out, but I don't think it's going to end up with Jim Harbaugh being the coach of the University of Michigan next year. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so I go back and forth on this one. I do think, like I mentioned last week, that and like you just mentioned right there, I do believe that he's going to have an opportunity in the NFL if he chooses. There's going to be teams that pick up the phone and give him a call, whether it be the Detroit Lions, the New York Jets if they let their coach go, maybe the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're not having a good season either. There's going to be some teams that make some changes, and they're going to pick up the phone and call Jim Harbaugh. But it wouldn't surprise me if this rumor that's circulating is true, even though both denied it in the press conference. I think they kind of wanted to avoid that topic with as much attention as they were getting on the cancellation of this weekend's game. But if it is true, Jim Harbaugh might want to stay. He might want to, this is his alma mater. Maybe he wants to prove that he can beat Ohio State, that he can make it to a playoff. He's been here for 6 years and that hasn't happened. He's done a lot of good things, but he just can't get over the hump. He can't beat his rivalries 3-3 against Michigan State, which is not good because their program has declined over the last couple of years, in my opinion. But it wouldn't surprise me if Michigan does offer him a contract for less money, maybe more incentive based, which the rumor speculating is that that's what this contract is involved. But we'll see what happens. I mean, I still think that the university overall, Michigan, is nervous to go outside of their little bubble and take somebody that is not a Michigan man. They did that with Rich Rodriguez back in 28, and that backfired and blew up in their face. So, I think that they might feel internally that they don't have a better candidate than Jim Harbaugh. That might be, and if you don't, then maybe they're going to just stick with him and give him another 2 years and see what happens. But it'll be interesting to see. I think within the next 2 to 3 weeks, we'll definitely know what direction they're heading, whether they're going to give him an extension or whether he's going to move on. So we'll see. But yeah, Zach, we'll talk on the Detroit Lions here.
All right, so the Detroit Lions win their first game under new coach Darrell Bevell. I believe that's how you pronounce his name.
Yes.
If the Lions play well down the stretch, do they offer him a contract? And we touched on this last week a little bit. What are your thoughts? Do you think they offer him the job if they make a run here?
Yeah, so we did touch on it last week, and I believe I left it by saying a typical Detroit Lions move would be them winning some meaningless games down the stretch with a new interim coach, and then they give him a 2 to 3 year contract. So, with that being said, with the way they played and the way they battled back against the Chicago Bears, who that's a whole nother topic. I think they have given up on Matt Nagy over there in Chicago. It seems like their players have totally given up. So that might be another vacancy by the end of the year. But the Lions battled hard. They were down by 2 scores, by 10 points with, I believe, under 3 minutes to go, and they scored 2 touchdowns to come out and win that game. So if they find a way to win, I believe there's 4 or 5 games left. If they find a way to win 1 or 2 more of these games, I think they do offer Bevell a contract, which in my opinion, it would be a huge, huge mistake. There's too many really good candidates. And we talked about the 2 last week with the offensive coordinator, Bieniemy over at Kansas City, and Robert Saleh, the D coordinator over in San Francisco. I think both of those guys would be fantastic head coaches. And if they don't give them an interview and give them a chance, I think the Lions are making a huge, huge mistake. But this would be a typical Detroit Lions move. What are your thoughts, Zach?
So I think in professional sports, one of the most important relationships in a successful organization are the GM and the head coach. So I, I I don't know the right answer to this. I think it lies in which direction they want to go. You have to have a strong GM head coach relationship. And it needs to work between the two for them to be successful, to draft well, to develop players. So, if they win a few games down the road here, and not knowing the Detroit Lions organization as well as you do, I think I agree that it would be a little disappointing for them to offer the position to Darrell Bevell, only because you have other vacancies to fill, and I think you got to look at the organization holistically. Where are you going to go? Who's your GM going to be? And how are they going to work with that head coach? How's that head coach going to work with the GM? So interested to see the direction they go. But I think just because you win a couple games, meaningless games, as you called them, down the stretch here, I hope that they don't make an offer. And maybe he is the right person for the job, but I think you have to go outside the organization and look at what your options are, and who's going to be your GM, who's going to work well with the direction you want to go, whether it's with the GM and coach, because you have two huge vacancies there.
Yeah, they do have two big holes to fill, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. Zach, to stay in the NFL here, let's talk about your beloved Pittsburgh Steelers a little bit. So they lose their first game of the season. I know you were talking undefeated last year, and I said, whoa, hold your horses. We don't want to get over ourselves here, with the 2007 New England Patriots undefeated season. So we don't have to worry about that anymore. But it's a tough loss. Did the NFL make a mistake here? Because in my opinion, I think you have to look at what the Steelers have going on. This is their second game in I believe 5-6 days here, and then they're going to play another game on Sunday, which would be their third game in 12 days. Due to COVID issues that are stemming from other teams, it's not even really a direct reflection of them, because they're doing a good job internally to handle COVID this season. But what are your thoughts? Did they make a mistake here?
I don't know if you could really blame the NFL. I know that's probably an interesting take coming from a Steeler fan. I know how you feel about this, but I think the Steelers, they've played 3 games in 13 days. I think in previous seasons, you have a Thursday game, you play the next Sunday, or there's scenarios where you play that often in previous seasons, and so to say that's unusual is not really fair. It does happen. But on the flip side, I think where it hurt the Steelers is they've had a lot of key injuries. They lost a lot of key. Bud Dupree, out for the season. That's huge. James Conner was out this week with COVID related, or on the COVID list. And he's had health issues, battling cancer and things like that. So they need to be protected of him, because it's life's more than football. So there are some scenarios that it just worked against them. Chris Boswell, their kicker. There were also in-game situations that happened at the half. An administrative issue stopped the clock, so so the Washington football team could kick a field goal, and get 3 points there. So, to blame it on the NFL and the scheduling, I think the Steelers losing a bye week early in the year hurt them more than this 3-game, 13-game stretch. But the difference is the reason they have a 3-game, 13-game stretch is because they lost a bye week early. Their bye week had to be moved, and the Ravens pushed their issue with, hey, we don't want to play Monday. We don't, we need to play Tuesday. Oh, wait, we need to play Wednesday. And there is a feeling that the Ravens had a lot of pull in when that game would be played. So I think the Steelers would have preferred to play that game Monday or Tuesday rather than Wednesday, just to get that extra day or two of rest. A lot of their players were injured. A couple days would have helped, especially leading into this Washington game. And now they're going to go into the Buffalo Bills beat up, and the Bills defense is tough, and it's gonna be a tough game. So do I blame the NFL? No. I don't like to place blame on COVID. I don't like to place blame on anyone, to say that COVID was the issue. But as Mike Tomlin said, and if you've ever listened to a Mike Tomlin press conference, he's awesome. He's great at what he does. He's great at talking to his local reporters, especially. And if you haven't heard him, I suggest you tune in. But they had a lot of drop passes this week, and his response to that was, what can you do to make sure that your receivers are catching passes? And I believe his response was, well, if they don't catch passes, I'm going to find someone else who does. So it's you got to do your job too. They should have won that game. They could have won that game. So I don't want to place blame on the NFL. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I go back and forth on this. I think it's hard to place blame on one, person or one league or one team or anything like that. 2020 is a crazy year, as we all know, and these things are inevitable. We knew they were going to happen. We're seeing it in almost all these sports. College basketball, you're starting to see a lot of games canceled. College football, same thing. The thing that makes it difficult and challenging with football is the rescheduling, right? So where baseball, you can do a doubleheader, basketball, you can play back-to-back nights. Same thing with hockey. But football, when you have shortened weeks, that really takes a big risk and a big gamble on injuries. So I don't necessarily blame the NFL. Maybe with it continuing to drag on and there not being a week to really look at making up this game, maybe they could have forced the Ravens to forfeit. That's the only thing that maybe I could have looked at doing differently. So I don't know, but it's put the Steelers in an unfortunately a bad position because they start the season 11-0. They're now 11-1 in a game that I think everybody thought they were going to win. You're playing the Buffalo Bills again on short rest here. If I had to guess, they're probably going to lose that game. And then they got a couple tough games down the stretch too. They play the Colts, who have been playing well most of the year. So next thing you know, they go from being in first towards the tail end of the season here to potentially fall into the second seed in the AFC for the postseason. And that's going to make all the difference in the world, in my opinion, this year, because you mentioned injuries that they're having and everything. They could benefit from a bye week. And unfortunately, with the way they changed the seeding, obviously the 1 and 2 don't get buys going into the postseason. It's just the 1 seed. So, Kansas City might jump Pittsburgh, unfortunately, down the stretch here. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens, but it's been unfortunate. But hey, they're still 11-1. We're guessing they're going to lose to Buffalo. That's not a guarantee. They have still control their destiny, and hopefully, because they've had a good start to the season, a great start. Hopefully, they can right the ship here and lock up that 1 seed. Because I am pulling for them because I think they've had some things unfortunately go against them in the last week or so here. So
yeah, I think it'd be difficult to root against them. You want to root for them at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, we've had a lot of great conversation, a lot of great topics here this week, some exciting stuff going on. We thank you for tuning in and joining us, and we look forward to seeing everybody this Sunday, and we hope you tune in on Tuesday for our next round of Hot Topic Tuesday. Thank you.